What's going on, guys? It's Danny from Fantasy Stock Exchange here, and today I'll be going through my top Week 7 streamers, players at the quarterback, tight end, and defensive positions that if you skipped out early in your drafts, or if you have bye weeks, or if you're dealing with injuries right now, can get you over the hill in your Week 7 matchups. We're entering crunch time of your fantasy football seasons. You guys got to rack up W's. You guys got to clinch your spot in the playoffs, and these are some streamers on your waiver wire that should be able to help you win your matchups this week. But before we get into the video, as always, make sure you leave a like down below. Let's try to get this video to 150 likes. Comment your favorite streamer of the week and subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 20,000 subscribers. As always, appreciate you guys for that consistent support. But before we get into the video, as always, we're going to hit the intro. All right, so not wasting any time, let's get into the quarterbacks. Number one quarterback stream of the week is going to be Jimmy Garoppolo, quarterback of the San Francisco 49ers, playing against the Kansas City Chiefs this week, 39% rostered in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. And when it comes to Jimmy Garoppolo and why I like him as a streamable option this week, that game, Kansas City versus San Francisco, has the second highest projected over-under of the entire slate at 48.5. And with Jimmy Garoppolo, we just saw this past week how he actually operates in a negative game script setting. 41 passing attempts while working behind in that game against Atlanta. I do expect Kansas City to jump out early against the 49ers this week. If that's the case, if the Chiefs are leading early, we expect Patrick Mahomes on the other end to be able to put up points. Jimmy Garoppolo is going to have to throw the ball and going to have to throw the ball at volume this week. When it comes to this matchup, the Chiefs are yielding the third most allowed points to the quarterback position on this year in terms of fantasy football. And I do think that this should be a highly entertaining, points being scored frequently type of game between San Francisco and the Chiefs. So in terms of this, Jimmy Garoppolo, top 15 level play this week, I do think could be the case, especially with all the bye weeks that are affecting fantasy football. Week 7 bye, Minnesota, the Eagles, the Rams. All these teams are on bye this week, so you're going to have to make do with Jimmy Garoppolo, which won't be the worst thing considering this matchup. So I'm definitely fine streaming Jimmy Garoppolo. I'm also fine streaming this next quarterback, Marcus Mariota of the Atlanta Falcons. 15% rostered in Yahoo Fantasy Leagues. He goes to play the Cincinnati Bengals on the road, and we basically saw how Mariota is going to win in fantasy this past week. He's going to do it with his legs despite low passing volume. But in this game in particular, why I'm very intrigued is because of the 47.5 over-under set in this game. Vegas expects points. And as I mentioned with Mariota's legs, 206 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns in the first 6 games of this season, including performances that had 50 rushing yards, 61 rushing yards, and 72 rushing yards. Once you have that type of floor of rushing at the quarterback position, it makes your job a lot easier. Again, not a ton of great options this week, but Mariota with his legs should be able to score points. I don't think, again, they're magically going to start throwing the ball more, but if there's ever going to be a game where they can operate from a negative game script, get the passing game going, it'll be against a Cincinnati team that has really picked up the slack after the first couple of weeks where they were starting out poor. The Bengals offense is looking ready to roll. Jamar Chase coming off, obviously, that big performance this past week against the Saints. I do expect the Bengals to put up pressure on the other end, which could only mean that Marcus Mariota, negative game script, maybe more passing attempts, but definitely with the rushing, should be able to get you top 15 level numbers this week, especially if you had, a guy like Jalen Hurts, for example, who won't be able to suit up in your lineup this week. Davis Mills, my third quarterback stream of the week, going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Obviously, Houston versus Las Vegas in Las Vegas this week. 4% rostered for Davis Mills. And this one's a bit more surprising. Obviously, you guys wouldn't really have heard me talk about Davis Mills really at all on the channel thus far, but the Raiders have conceded 26 points per game on defense to start this season and actually give up the most fantasy points per game to the quarterback position. So although he only has, 1 touchdown per game to start this year when it comes to Davis Mills, I do think this is a potential get-right spot for the Houston Texans, for the offense, for Davis Mills himself, in terms of being able to score points against this Raiders defense that, again, as I mentioned, has struggled this year. He's not going to be a top 15 type of option, but again, given bye weeks, given ownership percentages, if you need to stream a player under 50%, I actually don't mind Davis Mills as the second dart throw, but I do think that he's well behind the top 2 on this list. So if you have your pick of the litter, I would definitely prefer the top 2 to Davis Mills. But onto the tight end position, number 1 tight end stream of the week, we got Hunter Henry, tight end of the New England Patriots. And we've seen these past couple weeks that his role has taken a dramatic shift up in terms of potential targets. 80.6% route participation this week, en route to, as I said, a season high 16.1 PPR points, 7 targets, 4 receptions, 61 receiving yards, and a receiving touchdown on the day with Bailey Zappi slinging him the rock. We know that the New England passing offense has really been ridiculed going into the season, early portion of the season, but it's really started to click recently. And again, as I kind of mentioned, Henry has dominated the tight end routes for this team. Despite the signing of Jonnu Smith, obviously when Hunter Henry got signed as well, Hunter Henry has taken that clear role as the main number 1 tight end. Again, 80.6% route participation. He's shown a great chemistry with Bailey Zappi thus far. 21.8% target share in the past 2 games with Bailey Zappi as a starter. And I do have confidence as him being a top 15 level tight end this week and potentially moving forward if this usage continues once Mac Jones gets back. Number 2 tight end stream of the week is going to be Evan Ingram, tight end of the Jacksonville Jaguars. 85.7% route participation this week and led the Jacksonville Jaguars in targets. He's really been the epitome of a tight end with elite usage. Hasn't quite caught up yet. He's starting to find his groove now in this offense and is currently the PPR tight end 17, despite failing to score a single touchdown on the season thus far. I think sooner rather than later, he's going to punch one in, but his volume still gives him a relatively safe floor, especially when you compare that relative to other tight ends in his range. So love the stream of Hunter Henry, love the stream of Evan Ingram. Also am cautiously optimistic about the potential for Daniel Bellinger, rookie tight end of the New York Giants. And we saw this past week, his role took a dramatic tick up. 81.3% route participation this past week, while turning 5 targets into 5 receptions for 38 yards against the Baltimore Ravens. And as I kind of said, his role has completely transformed after the slight efficient glimpses we saw at the early portion of the season. It looks like he's finally becoming that full-time player. Relatively high pick for the Giants this year. And with that ambiguous New York Giants wide receiver core, it leaves an extreme opportunity for Daniel Bellinger to really establish himself in this offense. Again, I kind of said 5 targets this past week, full role now. I wouldn't be shocked if we continue to see a consistent target share and overall output when it comes to Daniel Bellinger in this New York Giants 5-1 Giants offense this week and moving forward. And 2 of my defenses out of the 3 actually play in the same game. So I'm just going to talk about them in conjunction because same logic applies for both. Indianapolis going up against Tennessee, Tennessee going up and against Indianapolis. And the reason why I am optimistic about both of these defenses in this game is that there is a low set over under in this game. And to put it simply, both quarterbacks and both offenses have looked extremely volatile on either side. So I do think that this is going to set up to be an ugly, gross, low-scoring interdivisional affair between these 2 teams in a week, again, where it feels like half the defenses in the NFL are on bye. Although, the Colts and the Titans haven't been playing well from a real-life perspective, given the lackluster offenses on either end, I do expect both to be suitable options if you're starting a defense in your fantasy leagues. And then my number 2, if you will, or pseudo number 3 here, would be Miami at home against the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday Night Football. 17% rostered for Miami, and Miami's a 7-point home favorite against the Steelers. And when it comes to the Steelers offense, they have truly been abysmal to start the year. Steelers have not scored over 21 points since week 1. They put up 20 this week, but they haven't scored over 23 points on the season. 21 points since week 1. So when you're getting that inept of an offense going up against the Miami Dolphins, I expect this Dolphins defense, again, positive game script, 7-point home favorites, to be able to pin their ears back and get after the Steelers here. I think they're looking to bounce back after that tough 3-game stretch these last few weeks against Cincinnati, New York, and Minnesota. And I do think that the Steelers, unfortunately, are the team they're going to be able to do it against. But appreciate you guys for sticking to the end of the video. Again, rapid fire. I want to keep it brief for you guys. Leave a like down below. 150 likes is the goal. And of course, subscribe to the channel. Also comment, as I mentioned, your top favorite streamer of the week. Under 50% is the only guideline. So whether you're in your sleeper, whether you're in ESPN, whether in Yahoo, if you find an option that is sub 50% owned, leave your favorite option in the comment section, and feel free to discourse down there. But good luck in your matchups. Hopefully you guys get the dub as always, and hopefully this video is helpful. Take care.
Wire me the money.